So let's talk about goals really quickly first. Basically, a lot of nutrition is knowledge. So a lot of what I do is educating our athletes on the knowledge that they need in order to fuel their body in line with their health and performance. Okay, but having the knowledge is not enough. We have a lot of very smart student athletes here, and they know all the things about nutrition. Over their 4 years here, they meet with us and learn so much. But if we can't figure out how to change behavior, all that knowledge, it can't always be put into practice. So we teach athletes that come in to meet with us about, first of all, thinking about the outcome maybe that they're looking for. So for example, maybe your outcome goal is you want to be the fastest person on your team to recover after a tough training, because the next day or the day after that, you want to be the least sore so that you can be, very impressive in your training, in your competition, etc. Maybe the outcome you're looking for is when others get tired, when our opponents get tired, your goal is to still have gas in the tank so that when everyone else is fatiguing, you have the endurance to keep going and win the game. Maybe right now you've refocused your goals a little bit and you've really thought about, something really important to me is avoiding some chronic disease that runs in my family. So maybe that's an outcome goal that I have. Maybe an outcome goal for you is strength so that you can hit the ball farther. Maybe strength and power so that you can run faster to first base. Maybe the strength is so that you're not pushed out of the position that you want to be in. So these are all outcome goals. And I would encourage you, if you don't have an outcome goal for yourself right now in terms of either your health or performance, to take a minute today and try to identify an outcome goal. Because it's going to be really important to have that in your mind. It's going to be what potentially motivates you towards doing some different things around your nutrition. So once we've identified the outcome goal, we have to think about the things that would lead to that, okay? So we need to think about the habits that could potentially lead us to that goal. So for example, I'm not going to read through all these, but if we're trying to recover the fastest after our training, we're going to maybe center ourselves around refueling. And so maybe you want to refuel with chocolate milk and tart cherry juice after every training session, because that daily behavior is going to lead itself to you not being as sore, so that you can recover faster after training and be very impressive on the field, on the court. So we have to think about what habit is going to lead to that. Once we have the habit or the behavior identified, then obviously we're going to get into, do we have the food to support it? How do we get the food? How do we plan around the food, etc.? But if you don't have your outcome identified, you might be like floundering around wondering what you're trying to do with your fueling, or you might be trying to do 18 things at one time, which doesn't really help with behavior change. So another piece kind of in the middle of that behavior, habit, and then outcome is your motivation, your ability, and a prompt. So once you've identified your outcome, what you're going for, your behavior, what you're going to do, some people call this part the messy middle. And so your motivation needs to be high. So if your motivation to, for example, let's just go with the first one. If your motivation to drink the chocolate milk and cherry juice is not very high, you're probably not going to do it. And so we need to refocus around, like, why isn't our motivation high? Do you need some more education, or is this not the right goal for you at this time? Your ability is going to be something that comes into play too, because if you don't have the ability to get chocolate milk, or you don't have the ability to get tart cherry juice, maybe we got to figure out a way to make you more able, or we've got to pick a different goal. And then a prompt. Sometimes, we humans are, basically a science experiment, I think. And so we can change human behavior a lot of times by prompting it. So we can prompt that by putting our post-workout snack inside of our bag, so that the minute we take our shoes off or change our shoes or whatever it is, we're also taking that refuel in. So you want to consider your motivation, your ability, and do You need to prompt yourself. I was just talking with somebody this week about an iron supplement. They're iron deficient. And so where are we keeping our iron? Because they didn't have a prompt around that. So this is something that obviously you're not going to be able to sort through all for yourself on this Zoom call. But you are going to want to take some time to reflect. It's a really good investment of your time. And then also just some things to think about in terms of making a habit. If you want to make a habit around anything really, but I talk about nutrition the most. If you want to make a habit around anything, you have to make it obvious. So let's say that you want to eat more fruits and vegetables. If the fruits and vegetables are in the back of the fridge, covered by, all your other different foods and you don't see them, it's going to be hard for you to obviously change that habit. You need to make it attractive. Maybe you want to make some, do some meal prep, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, and make the fruits and vegetables look very attractive in the refrigerator by having them pre-cut, by having them in a container, something like that. Making it easy. So if it's hard for you to eat an entire bell pepper, you can make it easier to eat by cutting it up ahead of time and maybe putting some kind of dip, some hummus or some ranch or something like that on the side. You want to make those habits easy, and then you want to make them satisfying. So if you're trying to eat more fruits and vegetables and you are putting a bunch of fruits and vegetables in your environment that you don't think taste very good and aren't going to be satisfying to you, it's going to be really hard for you to change that habit. So I would encourage you guys to take a picture of any of these slides that you want. We are going to try to record and post some clips if we can, but I would take a picture of this slide, and a really good investment in yourself is just really reflecting upon this in the next couple of days. All right, so let's go on now. Once you have established your outcome, your behavior, you've thought around your motivation, ability, we can move on to the next step. But in case you need some more inspiration, these are some habits that we've put together in performance nutrition that we believe will really move the needle in terms of performance and health. So eating consistently throughout the day so that we're not going through big swings in energy availability in our day. Eating and drinking 3 high calcium sources to make sure that our bones are really healthy, especially during a time in our lives for our athletes where they are still building up peak bone mass. Getting enough calcium is very important. Reviewing all of your dietary supplements with your sports dietitian is very important because your body is not a garbage disposal, and we need to make sure that we know every single ingredient from a dietary supplement. We know what that ingredient is doing. We know that it's safe. We know that it's effective, etc. Drinking water is going to be very important for moving nutrients around in our body, moving oxygen around in our body, recovering, etc. We're going to talk about winning plates and what a powerful habit building winning plates can be. Another one to mention is just carrying protein-rich snacks, especially if strength and power gain is your goal. Just making sure that those protein snacks are easy, they're obvious, they're available, satisfying, just all the things that we talked about. So let's go on and talk about building your routine. So once you have your goals, once you have your why, now we need to think about how to integrate this into our day. So this is just, an example of how an eating routine might look. I would encourage you all to design this for yourself. You're an individual, you have individual needs. And so this cookie cutter might not be super applicable to you, but maybe it is. So one of the things I want to point out here is, a couple of things. Breakfast is always included. And I know that during quarantine, breakfast can be kind of tricky because maybe you have the opportunity to sleep in a little bit later, and maybe you skip breakfast, and that kind of tweaks with your routine a little bit. So if you're going to sleep in later, how are you going to still orient breakfast, lunch, and dinner into your day is going to be a question for anybody who's sleeping in right now. Otherwise, there might be some value added to getting up earlier and having some breakfast. So you'll have to reflect upon that yourself. Another piece that I want to point out here is that we don't really go that long without having a little meal or a snack. In terms of athletic performance, you can really benefit from just fueling on a schedule frequently. So we don't ever want our body to think that it's starving. We don't ever want our body to necessarily be so full that we feel uncomfortable walking around in the day. And so eating every few hours, smaller meals or snacks, or bigger meals or snacks, depending on whatever your goal is going to be really powerful in maintaining energy levels, in helping you recover, and in fueling yourself for whatever training session you have. So notice there are no gaps in here longer than 4 hours. And that's kind of the rule of thumb that we use, is you should not be going more than 4 hours, except when you're sleeping. You shouldn't be going more than 4 hours without eating. So take a look at this, take a picture of this, and figure out what routine is going to work for you and what routine is going to. And obviously, if you have questions about that, this is why you reach out to Performance Nutrition, to get those questions answered and to get some of your individual needs met. So let's move on. Once you have that routine, now we can start to think about getting our food and how to do that now. So my number one resource for food safety around coronavirus is the CDC. They update this website very frequently, and it has really actually evolved a lot over the pandemic. So I've been, as we learn more about the virus, this website is up to date. And so I think something that we can feel really good about in nutrition is that currently there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that the virus is being rapidly spread through food. Most of the virus spreading is happening from person-to-person contact. So we can feel pretty safe, that we're doing low-risk activity when we are eating, especially if we are eating socially distanced from other people. That's going to be important. However, the hand washing piece was always important before, and it will continue to be important. So please wash your hands once you touch your food packaging, wash your hands before you eat, wash your hands, just continue to wash your hands. If you can't wash your hands for 20 seconds, please use some hand sanitizer and all the cracks and crevices of your hands. And that's going to really decrease any sort of risk that you might have from touching packaging. And like I said, according to the CDC, that risk of touching packaging that another person touched, very, very low risk for spreading the virus. So we can feel really great about that. All right. So moving on now, when we start to think about meal planning, we often go to some inspiration. We like to call it fuel-spiration here. But we often go to fuel-spiration. I like to pause, especially at our house, before I get too inspired on Pinterest or through cookbooks, and look at what I already have. Some people call this shelf cooking, but it's important to assess the food that you already have. If you're moving to campus and you have no food, then this isn't a step that you necessarily need right now. But if you have something in the freezer that can be used up, or if you have vegetables that are about to go bad, or if you have fruit that is starting to get a little bit soft, I would start there in terms of looking for inspiration around vegetables that are about to go bad. And maybe you start to think about, how can I use those up? And we'll have some ideas for you in a second. So once you've kind of done an inventory or an assessment of what you already have, then you can start to look at what you would like to do with your food. And obviously keeping those goals in mind that we already talked about. So if you're focusing on protein-rich foods, look at protein-rich foods. If you're focusing on pre-fueling with carbohydrates, look at those types of things. So keep your goals in mind the entire time. So get inspired here. A couple of pictures I would love to point out is just the sheet pan method. We love the sheet pan method at our house because it allows you to cook and roast some veggies and roast some meats at the same time. So what we have done at our house is maybe we'll do an entire sheet of chicken, and but we'll season it differently through the week. So we will season 1/3 of the pan with some fajita seasoning on the chicken, just to prepare ourselves to do some fajitas or some tacos or a taco salad or a burrito bowl or something like that. Then, we might do a teriyaki type of chicken, and maybe that prepares us to do maybe a stir fry. And then the third one, maybe that is a barbecue type of rub or a barbecue sauce that we've marinated in or whatever. And we'll cook all this chicken at the same time. And chicken cooks fairly well in the oven. I just love my food thermometer because it just never steers me wrong. So when I put my food thermometer in my chicken and it says about 160, I'll take it out of the oven because it'll carry over cook to 165, and then it'll be just great chicken for the week. I can cut it up, I can portion it out. It can be ready to go for several meals. I can also roast up several different kinds of veggies on this sheet pan meal. So if you have access to an oven, outstanding. If you don't have access to an oven, then we start to think about some ideas around microwaves. So yes, we can make omelet type things in the microwave. We can crack eggs, we can put salsa, we can put cheese into a mug, and we can absolutely cook an egg cup. Or we can do some overnight oats that end up getting cooked in the microwave as well. So if you don't have an oven as an athlete, don't worry, because there are plenty of opportunities to cook and eat without an oven. So another thing I point out on here is chili. You know, soups are really great. You can make a large pot of soup or stew on a Sunday, and then you can kind of eat off of it all week in different ways. You can obviously eat the soup plain from a bowl, but if you're doing something like chili, you could put the chili over a baked potato. You could get some tortilla chips, and you could make your own kind of healthier version of nachos with chili. So chili has, you know, a lot of nice applications. You can even toast a piece of bread and, you know, put the more chunkier pieces of the chili on top of the bread, put some cheese on top of that, and make yourself like a little chili sandwich or something like that. So lots of options there. Another picture that I wanted to point out here is egg sandwiches or breakfast burritos. This is a great way to use up vegetables that are about to go bad. You can kind of saute them up quickly on the stove, cook yourself up some eggs, and then you can wrap all of this in a burrito and put it in the freezer. And then when you're kind of on the go in the morning, you can pop that frozen burrito that you made yourself in the microwave, you know, cook it up for a couple of minutes, and it's actually excellent on the go. It's one-handed, so you can eat it while you're walking around, socially distanced from your friends, of course. But those types of frozen breakfast sandwiches or frozen burritos can be super helpful. And then obviously if you want to get super fancy, or if you want to ask your parents, you know, for some freezer meals, that would be incredible. So you can Google all types of different freezer meals. These can be put together in Ziploc bags. You can bring them to campus, store them in your freezer, and then you can cook them very quickly, either in a crock pot or whatever the package just instructions say. So hopefully some of that is starting to inspire you a little bit around how to connect your goals to meals and snacks that you can actually eat around on campus. So let's get a little bit more inspiration. This is just talking about living spaces. You know, a lot of times when you move and live on campus, you don't have these expansive pantries to keep a bunch of foods in, which actually is great because people usually tend to lose their foods in their expansive pantries anyways and then not know what they have. But if you're looking for some, you know, food storage, you can always store shelf stable foods in storage bins underneath your bed. You can use a shoe organizer to store some of your foods if you need to. You can insert some extra shelving above your refrigerator or buy one of those little mobile carts. And so don't let your tight storage space be a reason why you don't have the food that you need. And even if your fridge isn't big, you know, even if you just have a mini fridge, you know, one of the tips is just to keep the meat and the dairy at the very back of the fridge where the temperature is the coldest, because that will help your food last longer. And then if you are working all of this out of a dorm room or a very small apartment, think of those appliances that might really serve you well. For example, if you're trying to get more fruits and vegetables into your day, why don't you consider asking for a blender for your next birthday? What a wonderful birthday present that would be. Because you can use that blender to blend up several cups of fruits and vegetables in a smoothie and drink that down, getting yourself closer to that 9 servings of fruits and vegetables that we're looking for in a day. On the bottom of this slide is actually some of those microwave ideas that I spoke to you about before: the omelet, the blueberry banana baked oatmeal, or oatmeal called overnight oatmeal. So with overnight oatmeal, you don't even have to cook it to eat it. Honestly, you can take your oatmeal, your dry oatmeal, your milk, and then whatever toppings, whatever fruits and vegetables you want. So it's coming up to be fall. So a really kind of cool way to get a vegetable in your breakfast is by doing pumpkin pie overnight oatmeal. And it's an awesome way to get vitamin A. Vitamin A is an incredibly awesome antioxidant that can help with minimizing that muscle damage that can happen after exercise. So in order to make overnight pumpkin pie oatmeal, you would take the oats and put them in your mason jar. You would take a couple scoops of canned pumpkin, super easy, some pumpkin pie spice, milk of your choice. You could do dairy milk, you could do soy milk, whatever feels good to you. And then basically, close it up. You can add some sweetener if you'd like. Maybe you want a little brown sugar or a little honey, but you can close it up and just leave that in the refrigerator overnight. And all of those wonderful flavors will soak into the oats. And you can cook it the next morning if you want it warm, or it's fine to eat cold. So that's kind of a great way to get in a vegetable for breakfast when it's not always super easy to get a vegetable in for breakfast. And I kind of talked to you guys a little bit about chili. You can make some ramen chili in your microwave if you want as well. So this is kind of just some hacks that you might keep in mind. And then I just wanted to, I've already talked a little bit about overnight oatmeal, but you can also think about tuna wraps. Most athletes and most Americans, honestly, are just not getting enough omega-3s. And so those tuna packets are a really great way to get some omega-3s in. Omega-3s are great for your brain. They're great for your eyes. They're great for your heart. They help decrease inflammation, help us recover faster after exercise. So those tuna packets, all you need is a little bit of mayonnaise and whatever, salt and pepper, or whatever spices you want to add into that. And that can be a great wrap. It can be a great sandwich. You can eat it with carrots, but that can be a really nice way to get some omega-3s, a really nice source of protein. They make the tuna packets are actually flavored now, so that you can, once you head to the grocery store or order your groceries online, however you'd like to get them, you can look for the different flavors. They even have those packets of salmon as well. So consider stocking. That's a great shelf stable option. You can also get cans of chicken. That would be a great shelf-stable lean protein source, and you could do something similar that we just talked about. But it doesn't have to be hard. I mean, you can make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for your. Sorry, I got a little distracted because I saw someone's very excited about tuna packets, which is so great. But you can make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Can absolutely be part of your meal prep and your plan for sure. So let's move on to how we bring this to life. So I have this meal and shopping organizer in here all filled out. And then on the next slide, I have a blank one. So on the next slide, you can take a screenshot of that and fill it out for yourself. We'll probably be posting that on social media as well. But basically, kind of how does this come to life? So one thing that I want to point out is that if you fill out this shopping list, you will end up getting foods from all of the food groups, which is incredibly important. You'll end up having fruit, protein, vegetables, some dairy or dairy alternative, some healthy fats, some whole grains, and that's going to be a great environment for you to set yourself up in. Remember, if it's not easy, if it's not convenient, if it's not appetizing, it's probably not going to happen for you. So you've got to first create your environment and put these foods around you. So you can start with filling out your meal side of the equation and say, okay, wow, that thing Katie was talking about with the overnight oats, that actually sounds good. Or maybe I'd like to do some hard-boiled eggs as part of my routine. So I got to make sure that I buy eggs and that I meal prep eggs. Maybe I want to make an omelet. Maybe I want to make a breakfast burrito or frozen sandwich or something like that. You all on this call understand how important breakfast is for academics and athletics. So making sure you fill those boxes out will be a great step in making sure that you're doing that breakfast every day. And then maybe you decide for lunch you want to do a sandwich, or maybe you want to do one of the burrito bowls that we talked about. Burrito bowls are a really nice way to reuse some of the extra vegetables that you might have lying around. And they're pretty simple. You know, the rice, you can buy rice packets or you can buy frozen rice. You can cook rice all the way from scratch, whatever is in line with your abilities right now. Get the rice. Black beans or whatever beans you'd like, that can come from a can as well. Or you can cook those in the crock pot, whatever goes in line with your abilities right now, but you can rinse that can, you can cook the rice. Now you've got beans and rice, which is a great base. You can add some protein if you'd like. Maybe you've baked the chicken, or maybe you'd like to use a rotisserie chicken that's already cooked because that's in line with your abilities and what you're working on right now. And then a can of salsa and whatever vegetables you have around. So burrito bowls are really excellent, and just a few ingredient switches and the things that I just said make it a stir fry. So that's kind of just something to keep in mind in terms of lunches and dinners. When we're looking at our lunches and dinners, we want to go back to the winning plates that we talk about all the time in performance nutrition, making sure that 1/4 of the plate is protein and then the other half of it, or the other pieces of it, are grains and vegetables. So just depending on the intensity of your training that day, you may bump up the vegetables if the training intensity was low. You may bump up the rice, the carbohydrates, the pasta, if your training intensity was higher that day. So you can adjust that way. And then obviously making sure that you have some snacks. So when you get on campus, when you get around the fueling station, you'll have access to some snacks. So maybe you won't have to go out and purchase those on your own, but you'll definitely want to put them in your plan. And so if you fill this out for yourself and you're, somebody that can operate off of, the same thing for about a month, it's a little bit of an investment of your time on the front end. But this type of organization and this type of setting up your environment is going to serve you for a long time while you're here. It's going to serve your health and your performance. So it's an excellent investment of your time, and it's really great quarantine project if you're looking for some things to do. So here's the blank one. I'm just going to pause for a second if you want to take a picture of this. This is kind of what you can fill out for yourself in order to keep yourself organized around meal and snack planning. So, all right. So obviously eating out is fun. It's a little bit different than it used to be. So if you're thinking about getting food delivered during your quarantine period, just a couple of things to ask. If we're kind of doing all of our due diligence, we might want to ask these important questions before ordering food. These are the questions that myself and our performance nutrition team ask before we approve like caterers or things like that. So can I get contactless delivery? Can I pay in a contactless way? Are your employees wearing masks when they're delivering? Are they wearing gloves when they're delivering? Are the delivery vehicles that they are delivering your food in sanitized frequently? Are employees required to be washing their hands? Are employees getting their temperature checked to make sure that that symptom doesn't exist for them? And so, especially if you're planning on frequenting a place. I know a lot of times people frequent some burrito places around here or Mediterranean places. You may want to just ask these questions or contact us in Performance Nutrition to see if we've already done that. And then we can let you know. You also, you can get your groceries delivered as well. If you do that, then you would want to make sure you're kind of asking these same questions. If you are planning to go to the grocery store, you just want to make sure that you're obviously masked and that you are sanitized, washing your hands frequently on your trip and after your trip and all of that. But like we talked about with the CDC, as long as you're doing a great job with your mask and a great job with your hand washing, the risk around grocery shopping and getting food delivered is quite low.